Okay, so today I thought it would be a good idea to explain a little bit to you about what is hormonal birth control, how does it work in your body, how does it prevent pregnancy. Quick funny story, I was going in and seeing the gynecologist, and knowing everything that I know now, I was kind of a little asshole and was questioning her on like, hey, how does this birth control work? What are the long-term side effects? What should I be worried about? What should I be planning for? Crickets, literally crickets. So I think it's hilarious because, it's this doctor that's giving us this pill, and, she or he doesn't really know the full consequence of it, and they're not informing us of the risks and effects of this drug. And so I want to change that whole landscape by first educating you so you can go into the doctor's office knowing all about your choices. You have all the informed consent, and you can decide for yourself if taking the pill or getting an IUD or copper IUD is right for you, right? Because in the end, it's about your body and it's about your short-term and long-term goals, and frankly, they're just not being discussed or prioritized in a conventional doctor's office. So hopefully this video will give you a little bit of insight into your choices, and you can make the best decision based on that. So really, birth control in general is going to work one of three ways. One, it's going to actually impair that signal from your pituitary gland to your ovaries. We're essentially shutting the ovaries down. They're no longer getting that signal to mature a follicle, to produce estrogen, to release that follicle in ovulation, and thus produce progesterone. So everything that I just said there doesn't exist anymore when you're on the pill, okay? And so that's really important to consider, because estrogen and progesterone, they're not just something that we think about, to get our period. They're influencing a lot of different functions in our body. Many of our tissues have receptors for these two hormones, bones especially being one of them. So, we hear about women in menopause being at risk for osteoporosis, right? Well, the reason for that is because they're no longer making any estrogen or progesterone to build up that bone matrix, okay? So when we're 16 years old and we start taking the pill until we're 35 years old and ready to have a baby, we literally spent the last 20 years not getting any of that estrogen and progesterone. What do you think the condition of our bones are going to be by the time we really do reach menopause, right? The bone density is going to be so low. In fact, there are many studies showing this as well. Doctors used to think that prescribing synthetic ethinyl estradiol actually replaced natural estrogen and would actually help the bones grow and become more dense, but there's also studies proving that to be wrong as well. So very important to consider that. The second way it can impair pregnancy is that it creates a very inhabitable environment in your uterus and cervix. We produce certain cervical fluid during and around ovulation that helps sperm survive in a proper pH, also providing a lot of nutrients to keep it alive as well. And the type of cervical mucus actually channels and helps the sperm swim up through our cervix and to meet the egg, okay? So having birth control gets rid of all of that cervical mucus, that raw, liquidy, stretchy egg white material that you see around ovulation. You won't be seeing that anymore when you are on birth control, okay? The third way birth control prevents pregnancy is that it destabilizes your uterine lining. Okay, so maybe your uterine lining still grows a little bit, but we're not getting that natural progesterone that stabilizes the uterine lining. And that's important because if the egg does get fertilized, it needs a very comfy, cozy, stable place to implant on the uterine wall, okay? So 3 ways there. Now it's important to know that all birth control don't act in all 3 of the ways. So we've got two main types of the hormonal birth control. One is what we're most familiar with. It's a combination of that synthetic, the ethinyl estradiol, and the synthetic progestin, in a pill form, the NuvaRing, and patches, okay? That's where you're gonna see this type. Now, it is advertised as highly effective, but really, 1 in 10 women are actually getting pregnant on this form of birth control just because of, user defect, right? We're forgetting to take the pill. We don't quite understand or know why it's working, so we don't really, we're not really bought into why we need to take it every morning, etc. So the second form is going to be the progestin only, and these are going to be things like IUDs, implants, the mini pill, and then also the Depo-Vera shot. So these are all progestin only. And these they only work in 2 of the 3 ways that I mentioned above. They continue to let the pituitary gland speak to the ovaries, okay? So you're still ovulating, you're still producing that estrogen and progesterone monthly. So that's why it's touted to be better than the pill. And I mean, I'd have to agree, it is better. Is it the best? I don't think so, but it is better. And so it's going to work by creating that really inhabitable environment for sperm. It's also going to destabilize the uterine lining and keep it from growing as well. So if you have an IUD, you may not get your period. And this is usually because the progestin is so overpowering of the estrogen that the estrogen just doesn't get a chance to grow the uterine lining, and thus it does not shed at the end of the month. There are some cases, so actually 50% of the cases, where it does show that progestin is actually inhibiting ovulation. So it's like kind of a gray area. I think there's so much more to be learned about, IUDs and implants and things like that, and the true long-term effect of the body, rather than just like, oh, it's local, it's low hormone, I think all of that stuff is kind of bullshit, honestly. Like, we all know that the body doesn't work in a vacuum and everything affects everything. So take it or leave it. Those are kind of the top choices for the hormonal birth control portion. Later we can talk about the copper IUD and also, God forbid, the natural form of controlling our fertility. So we'll catch you on another day. All right, thanks, bye.